Hey everyone. We can wait for some people to join.
While we wait for someone to join, Aaron, is it live on your Facebook right now?
Let's see. It should be. I closed the page. Is that you? Is that the one person we have joining?
No, I'm actually looking for it. I don't see it.
It should be on my personal and it should be on. Everybody, welcome. We're going to get started in just a second. Be sure to comment. Let us know you're watching. Start in just a second. Hey, Alika. That's all I see. Hi, everybody. Come on in. Welcome to my live podcast. As you all know, I released my second book, Live Wiser, The Ultimate Guide to Adulting. And so I made myself a promise that I'm going to promote this until my next book, which could be a year or two off, but I'm going to promote this as much as I can. I feel like this is the best body of work I've put together, and I know it's blessed a lot of people so far, and I can't wait for more people to join in and read it. And so Live Wiser shares my tale of growing and my journey from graduating from college, and me being transparent of how, I thought that life was going to be like golden and roses and, people throwing money my way, just like making it rain. But no, that didn't happen. And it doesn't happen for most people. And so once I knew that this did my journey, I was not by myself. I decided to share so other students, other people coming behind me, even my peers, understand that the journey after receiving your degree, it's an adulting journey. It's something that everyone has to go through. Everyone goes through the same pain points, and so my first chapter, I started this off with an introduction, of course, but the first chapter after that is labeled Post-Grad Blues. And of course, it's a cutesy term. I didn't know that it was common. The second chapter, I actually share my post-grad blues. But the first really just gives an overview, especially for those students who are just now graduating. I wanted to give everybody, some warnings, some forethought into what life could be like after you graduate, so you can be prepared for it. Nothing shocks you. And one of those things that's a common occurrence is post-grad blues. As I was researching, studying all about this, I realized that there was some, the blues part make it just kind of seem like it goes away and it's fine. But actually doing my research and looking at the signs and the very little, there's some things out there, but not as much as I thought would be there. Really kind of made me a little curious to why we are talking about this. And even though we all go through it, nobody talks about it. So on today's podcast, I have my best friend, sorority sister, Latrina Raddler. We're going to try to keep it professional, but probably not. But it is what it is. We at least give them 10 minutes of professionalism.
Never worked out that way.
And And she actually is a part of, I have to talk about it carefully. I know there's a lot of ethics in counseling. But she is in my book in the second chapter as like continuation of my post-grad blues. So just a quick rundown. You can get the book. It's available everywhere, Amazon. I had a delayed reaction to this. So, of course, I exit Southeastern, went straight into my master's/PhD. And so I was still kind of in school, living that professional student life, kind of thing. But once I graduated my PhD and then everything just hit me. I was not happy and I was functioning. And so Trina was like the main one, was like, you're just functioning. Like, I can tell you're not happy. What's up? I had a house. Everybody's like, oh yeah, you brought your house. I was like, it's sucking up bills, sucking up money, a lot of bills. Like, why did I do this? I had a lot of regret, hated my job. I had reached the ceiling. No job offers, despite 3 letters behind my name. I just was not happy. So I think one of our random brunches out, we diagrammed this wellness wheel, and she's like, what are your priorities? And so that was really the kicking off point for like, okay, I'm going to streamline my life. I'm going to do what makes me happy, and I'm going to funnel the money, the time, the effort, the energy into doing that. And so that random, probably very boozy brunch, really was a significant point. And so I'm like thankful that she was not only a friend, but had professional intuition to help me out with this. So welcome, Trina. I don't know if I want to keep calling you Latrina, but welcome, Trina. Thank you for being here. This is our second attempt to get this done. Second, so tell us about yourself. Tell us about I see your credentials. Tell us what that means. Tell us about how you got here and your expertise.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Erin. And I will say that everything Erin said is absolutely true about probably how we got here and about her just kind of walking through. So I'll be happy to unpack that a little bit as we talk about this a little bit further. So as she said, my name is Latrina Raddler. I am a licensed professional counselor, and I am credentialed as a supervisor in the state of Louisiana. That's what those credentials are there for. I got my bachelor's and master's both from Southeastern, and I am working on my PhD at the University of New Orleans. A long hauler on my PhD, but I do see the end of the tunnel soon. So my specialties, really, it's taken me some time to really hone in on my specialties. I've always said that I'm an addictions counselor, but the longer I've been in this profession, the longer I really, taken a step back to really look, because my degree is in marriage and family therapy, right? And so the longer I really looked at, I focus on relationships. Everything I look at systems and relationships. I love addictions, and I love what that looks like within the family, within the relationship. But ultimately, the root of what I do is relationships. So I look at friendships, partnerships. I look at our relationships with the systems that we're in, whether it be our schools, our jobs, because those are all relationships, whether it be with our intimate partners, our friendship, business partners, whatever that may be. So while my specialties are relationships, families, and addictions, but I do look at our systems as a whole. And so that's what it is. And of course, with all counselors, our foundation is first and foremost mental health. So that's a little bit about me.
And so did you tell them that you own a whole practice?
I do. I've owned my own practice now for a long time. In some of the kids' words, a long time. So it's gone over a couple of names. Right now we are branded as Brightside Counseling Services here in Baton Rouge. And Brightside Counseling Services, it is a group counseling practice off of North Glenstone, where we have several therapists with several specialties. We offer a variety of modalities of therapy. I'm one of the clinicians who there. I'm the owner and I also practice there. So I actually specialize in couples and family work out of Brightside. So if you're looking for work that is specific to relationships, couples, and couples therapy, then you would see me. But if you look for a referral for anything else, then you would see one of my lovely colleagues.
Okay, we'll talk about that more at the end of the podcast. So before we jump into the questions, I have some fun questions just to lighten it up. Not that we need it. So I have a couple of like pairs of things, and I want to know what's your preference, right? Coffee or tea?
Oh, I had this exact same question yesterday. And when asked this question on yesterday, everyone else on the call completely fell out laughing when I answered because my answer was kind of off the wall. So I kind of don't want to answer it. But here it is. Why, Aaron? Don't look at me like that. So I'm coffee, right? Everybody, if you know me, you know that I'm coffee because coffee. However, I start my day with coffee. Evenings, I move to tea. And I've switched my nights to sugar-free Red Bull. So I am a caffeine person. Just give me caffeine all day long. Don't really.
It's supposed to be either or. What's your top preference?
And I want them all. I have a good relationship with all of them.
Okay. Denzel or Samuel?
Oh, Denzel.
Okay, that's easy.
Oh, easy.
Nikki or Cardi?
Nikki. Do you know my age?
Doritos, ranch, or cheddar cheese? Or nacho cheese?
Nacho cheese.
Okay. Harlem Nights are Coming to America?
What? Harlem Nights.
Okay. And so while this will air on my audio podcast, Woke Wise College Kids, I always have to have a couple of college related questions. So
in college or when I was in college?
When you was in college, when we was in college. So what college did you attend?
Southeastern. And UNO.
Okay. So describe yourself, like if you were to like say, well, I remember Latrina being this person. Describe yourself. What type of student were you?
I was an involved student. Overly involved.
Overly involved. Social butterfly.
Yes, she was.
We had some good times.
Too many.
A really good time. So she's as she likes to express all the time. She's a little bit older than me, so she helped me get transitioned into Southeastern, picking my classes, introducing me to people. What were your fondest memories? What was your top one top that like pops into your mind?
The fondest memory, my fondest memory at Southeastern, oh my goodness. And it has to be like
PG.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like,
and there's a lot of Southeastern alum on this.
I'm looking at the list of folks in the Facebook thing, and I'm like, they were all at school with us. So I'll say that I don't have a specific fondest memory to like pinpoint, but what I will say is that I'll give you a collective time frame of when I lived in Southeastern Oaks. Living in the Oaks during this time frame, my sophomore, junior years at Southeastern, they all melded together. I don't know what happened, what happened, or whatnot. It was crazy. It was fun. We had some late nights. Fondest memory, I will say, one birthday, somebody drove me a cake all the way from Baton Rouge, a cousin of mine. I had a test the next day, but we had a little random barbecue. Some neighbors came over, we ate cake and things like that. All of a sudden, I forgot I had a test to study for. Somebody got me a no dose. I drank a no dose, but then I realized I had already studied for the test. So I tried to take something to go to sleep. So I was, I did the next day. It was my birthday, and I was a walking zombie on campus, and everybody was like, "Happy birthday!" And I was like, "Huh?" It was great. It was really fun. Not the night before, but the experience the next day of everybody realizing and like wanting to like take care because I was not myself. So that was really fun.
Gotcha. I don't know if I was a part of that or not.
You were.
Oh. All night.
See.
Okay, so that was your best memory. What was your like biggest regret? So we did a lot of stuff. We did a lot. I know I have one, and I always say it is that I didn't take advantage of travel abroad, and so now I have to scrape up pennies and contemplating flying like Spirit and stuff to get away. But that was my biggest regret of all things that I did not do. What was yours? Like, if you can go back in time and actually do something different or add to that experience, what would you do?
So if I could do something different, I would actually put a little bit more effort into my academics. My first 2 years of school, because I did not for freshman and sophomore year, and then the 4.0s the last 2 years were pulling me up like crazy. And that took a toll on me because that was when I really started to figure out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be as far as a helper in life. And I feel like had I really found some balance at first, I would have been positioned a little bit differently. But it was a regret, but I wouldn't change. I kind of wouldn't change it.
Yeah. So for any student who's in college starting, what would be your advice to them?
Just find some balance when you get there. Don't go too hard either way. If you are someone who, when we come out of high school, things are so scripted for us, right? When we are in high school and we are in our parents' home, we are told what to do, when to do, how to do it, right? If we have those types of parents or guardians. And society tells us that we are not adults and we have to play by these societal rules. When we get to college, we are considered quote unquote adults. Or back in the day, we were. It's kind of shifted a little bit because it still said that they're kind of kids now, but not really. You're adults. The society says we're adults when we get there. If we're going to be adult there, then we need to start to make adult decisions, that realizing that the decisions we're going to make while we're there, these decisions are going to be with us. You're going to make friends that are going to be with you forever. Some of my closest friends are still with me today. Think about the friends that you're going to make. Make good choices in those friends. Make good decisions on, just what you're doing. And it's okay if you don't make the best decisions, because the mistakes are also going to help you to kind of change and shift the way things are later on as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Speaking of friends, you wanna respond to them?
I'm trying right now.
So thank you for those little warm-up questions. And so now for the big questions. So if you're watching and as we go along, please put your questions in the chat, any comments. We're watching. So if you have any questions that you want us to address, feel free to leave a comment for us.
Tell the people to leave. I was going to say, Aaron, I didn't know that was the purpose of this, to tell people to leave us.
No, leave a comment.
You our friends though, because I can hear the dings.
I don't even know where that, where what's yeah. Um, yeah, I don't even know where that Google Hangout is. So, so this title or the topic of this podcast is post grad blues. So as I was researching, I asked for a little insight. I don't know if I let you preview that chapter because I'm like, if I get something wrong, she's going to judge me. Um, but you've read that part. The post grad blues. When I was looking at it, and looking at articles and who's written about this, it was a lot of like, times or people, or there was very little academic research on this, and almost all those articles kind of said, this should be, a higher priority, or it should be a major focus and as part of like a clinical counsel. Like, we've been calling it post grad blues, and it makes it seem, um oh, mom, you just have a mommy blues. So it's just like, until we start taking like life transitions and the emotions and the ups and downs of it, whether it's any type of transition, I feel like that needs to be addressed, because it was just like, oh, well, she's sad because she can't find no jobs. She's having a hard time like, but when you look at it, like, I'm supposed to be this. Everybody has congratulated me. I have these expectations. Um, I'm getting rejected. I don't know, how my life is going to pan. I like all of those decisions. When I looked at it, it was just like, I was just very dismayed that there's very little research that I could include in that chapter. And so the things that I did look at, I compared like what they said post-grad blues were, and I compared it with research clinical depression and all of the things that would be related, and they have some very overlapping similarities. So I think if I didn't just think it was like a funk, I probably would have reached out to seek professional help. But I'm like, oh, this is kind of where I am in life. I'll pull myself out. Now, I think a lot of people may be like that. And so I really want this conversation to really destigmatize how we feel, and not just like blowing it off. Let's get some help when we see those early signs, when we get into that, what we call quote unquote funk, and not where it leads to like on the real serious side of depression. So what give your like kind of comparison between post grad blues, and kind of compare that to depression, or giving some background on depression.
Right. So you and I were talking about this a little bit before we went live. And I think the original question you wanted to ask was, what's my definition of clinical depression? And I think it's important that we shed a little bit of light that that's the question that you wanted to ask initially. What was the definition of clinical depression? And my response to that was, for this audience, I don't really think it's necessary to define clinical depression, more so than to be able to delineate between like what is depression and destigmatizing depression, and really saying like, okay, this is something real. I really need to seek help, and let's actually talk about it, because let's be real. When we get out of college, we spend all these hours in school, right? In these classrooms, we spend all this money. So money, time, and effort. Money, time, effort, stress, all of these things. You get out and you hadn't found a job, and you can't get out of bed. You're crying. You're doing all of these things. Your day doesn't look the same. You're not bathing. You're not taking care of your ADLs. Your day does not look like it normally. When I say ADLs, these are your activities of daily living. I know you're about to me to.
What? Or it could.
But you're not brushing your teeth. You're not doing the things that make you a good, clean, normal human. I mean, you're not normal, but normal in society's eyes. And so the things that you would normally do, and you stop doing that. You stop functioning. You are underneath your cover all the time. You're in your bed, or my term, that when I am depressed, because we all go through our own bouts of depression. We may not all have clinical depression, but whenever I'm going through a bout of depression, I'll tell my friends, I am underneath the bed, girl. Yeah. That's, when you feel like you're underneath the bed, when things like that, being able to differentiate what's the difference between you not being yourself and just having the blues, and it's something you can snap out of, and something you just can't snap out of. Because the clinical depression, you just can't snap out of it. Somebody just can't say it's gonna be okay and then you'll be okay. Clinical depression is something that is recurring. That is an actual disorder. Like, it's a diagnosable disorder in the DSM that happens. It occurs. You have to seek treatment for that. There are professionals that are, licensed to help you with that. There's medication, therapy, treatment, all sorts of things that happen for clinical depression, right? But then if you are just, not just, because I don't want to minimize it, because there are levels to this, right? There are levels. But when you see it happening, when you're identifying that you are having this, the first, what I'll say, your first initial onset of depression after graduation, post-grad blues, it can accelerate into something much more severe if you don't get a handle on it, if you're not seeking professional help, if you're not, talking to someone. And I'm not saying FaceTime your friend 15 times a day so that your friend can carry your burdens, because we all do it. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have some friends say preach after this. We all FaceTime.
There's a couple of counseling people I see on the list now.
No, that doesn't mean FaceTime those friends 15 times a day. That means, evaluate your current situation. Do you need to seek professional help? How are you veering off the path from your normal day-to-day life, where you may need to seek help? Are you not talking to anyone? Are you locked in your room and you just can't talk? Some people's post grad blues look different. I know that I've read stories, I've seen case studies where, there are people who go through medical school and just can't get placed or find, it's just, or not even get placed. They get placed and they realize this isn't the career for them. It may manifest in that way. So I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but it can look different for everyone. But destigmatizing it means being able to talk about it.
Yeah.
And being willing to talk about it.
Yeah. And I think going back to that time, I equated it, like, I just remember getting through Baton Rouge traffic after driving home an hour and 30 minutes to work, and not having to like read dissertation or do anything like that. I think that was like my slippery slope, because I just started, binge watching Netflix of all the things that I couldn't watch. And I was like, I don't want to read anything. I just want to lay on the couch with nothing to do. And I think I just like let that happen. I think I was going out, I was doing regular things, maybe. I don't know. I think I was normal, but I knew it wasn't, like, I just wasn't happy. Like, I just was frustrated with everything. If, everything, bills, house, car, job search, just like what I'm supposed to be in a different place. And that was my thing. I had to get out of, like, who said you were supposed to be in this place?
You use the key term that so many of us use, and we have to stop that. And we have to, the students who are in college now, before they get out, help them to put it in their mind that word supposed to is the thing that's going to get them in trouble. Because when we start to say we're supposed to, or, this is what my life is supposed to be like, Well, we're all supposed to be married with 2 children, a house and a car and a dog by 23. Yeah, right. We set ourselves up for failure when we set these expectations, these societal expectations, these norms on ourselves. Then we are set for failure. No one sets these expectations on ourselves but ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And then when we don't meet them, then we fail no one but ourselves, but then we get these blues.
Yeah.
We got to call it what it is. Stop renaming it and start calling it what it is. We start to get into these funks and start to, become depressed and anxious because we are not meeting these goals.
Yeah.
Supposed to.
Yeah, and that's when I did do like the research, it was like what they said, how do you know if you have post-grad blues? It was like you're not talking to friends, you're not enthusiastic about like looking or job searching or trying to change your situation. You're just kind of dealing with the status quo, you minimize, you settle. And so even with those similarities, why do you think there's little research on post-grad depression?
I don't really know why there's so little research on post-grad depression. I think one way that we can probably assume that people aren't willing to talk about it. How can we do qualitative research on something if there's no participants to really study? If people aren't really willing to talk about that. This platform that you created tonight where people are willing that you started this show talking about your own post-grad blues, being transparent about your own post-grad blues. But how many people do you know that would be really willing and transparent to talk about what that really looked like for them postgraduate? Because we know so many of the same people, we can name several people who, we can say, well, she went through it and she went through it and she went through it. But how many of them do we really know would be willing to sit down and go through a qualitative study to provide that information, so that we can add value to like the research?
Yeah.
It can be out there. I think that's the problem. People aren't really wanting to be transparent about that. And I think that's a limitation that's out there. And we need to really start to, speak up more about that.
Yeah, the whole, and that was kind of my premise for the book. I think
I'm sorry, I want to go back. And she also went through it. When I say we can go through and say she went through it and she went through it. Let me not point fingers, because she also went through it.
And we all went through it for a variety of reasons of our own perception of how life should have been after college, our own pursuits. Geez, I lost my thought. Oh, the whole premise of Live Wiser was like based on, I feel like a conspiracy theory, this whole cover up of what is supposed to happen. Like, I think that's why we don't talk about it, because we feel like everybody else is doing well. Everybody has a good job. Everybody's getting married. Everybody's having the kids. Everybody's like, oh, Erin, you got your PhD. That's good. Oh, I can't see myself doing that. And then I'm looking at them like, but you got a whole like great big check while I'm still stuck in higher education. Yeah, entry level higher education. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the comparison piece of it. And I think that's why we don't talk, because we get into like, it's me. It's just me. I suck. I'm not doing something right.
That's called the comparison trap.
Yeah.
But also, we don't know what everybody else is really having. And we don't know if everybody else is as happy as their social media portrays them to be, or as they portray, because people only gonna let us see what we want them to see. We have to stop being so worried about what everybody else has and everyone else's status, and be very concerned with ourselves, our family, and our happiness, right? Because if we focus solely on getting ourselves to the next level, then we ensure our own success, right?
Yeah.
So it normalizes putting us first.
Yeah.
Period.
So do you think, Trina knows my sister. We have that in common as well.
We have a comment on Facebook, by the
We
way.
do?
We do. You're so
I
excited.
can't see it.
It
What is
says,
it?
it's a comment from Michelle. I think that we only see other people's successes, not the struggles. So there's no sense of normalcy there, and that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exact. It goes right to what I was just saying. People won't show this. Don't always show the struggles. It's very, and I use an example because I talked about this with a group I was speaking with maybe a month or so ago. When my son turned 2 months, Michelle, who made that comment, she was watching him. I was away at work. And he was crying, and she sent me his 2 month pictures, and I made a collage and I posted the picture of him crying. And someone messaged me and said, "Thank you so much for posting this picture versus always, happy, happy." And I was like, no, motherhood is hard. These babies cry.
Yeah.
He was crying and acting a fool, and I wasn't there.
Babies are dirty. They're hungry. They're whiny. They won't sit for a picture. Yeah, you don't have the perfect child.
It is what it is. And so people don't always show the struggle. And, we don't know what to compare it to. We only know what we know. We only know what we see. So thank you for that comment, Michelle. Aaron, you're about to say something else.
So going like kind of on that same thought, my sister, right? We personally know her journey, and I could like see it mirroring like when she was going through, like after she graduated, just trying to find her stride, getting back into grad school. And then things just started pop, pop, pop. Then she's married with 2 kids that are really grown now. She was not and is not a social media person, but we're the first people on Facebook. Do you, knowing like that generation, think about your cousins, knowing that generation in ours, do you think we probably had it a little bit harder because we were the first people on Facebook? Literally April 2005. We had to have a college login to get on. We were the first 20,000, 100,000, million people on there, right?
Yes, it ruined us because it gave us insight into everybody's lives, depending on how people chose to use it. And I think about your sister, my cousins, and the several people who don't use social media for those, and the people who use social media but use it modestly and privately, right? That way, right?
Yeah.
And I think, wow, back then they didn't have that pressure, because even today, I think the kids in college now, they have a different amount of pressure than what even us, because, I think our age range, we don't even post and live through that lens as much as, even though we are that first, 20,000.
Well, we learned we had the consequences, so that's why we don't do it now. We've seen the consequences of living out loud on social media.
Right. But they do, and they live on all of the platforms. And so, but I think about your sister, and I think about my cousins, and they don't, but the flip side is they don't have that connectivity either. So that's two sides of both coins. Like, I haven't seen you. I don't know when I meet with you, we have to sit and talk for 6 hours to catch up before we can start to even, talk about current day.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit different than us, because we feel like we haven't missed a beat because we've been on social media all this time.
But it's still a false assumption, because I post what I want to post.
Yeah, you only know what you know. So yeah, but I do think that they have it a little bit easier because they don't have that sense of, and I'm trying to think of the right word to use, but it's like, it's a sense of urgency almost, to our sense of need to fit.
Yeah, they're like focused on them. They don't see, thousands of other pictures and posts that deal with everyday life. They're just in their zone. They handle their own problems in their immediate purview, and that's it.
But even though they're not seeing the people who, they know, it doesn't say that they're not, looking at the blogs of the people who they don't know, and they're following mean, because I follow several blogs of people who are building these houses that I want to, I need to be like her in the next 2 years. You know, we don't know what we don't know. So, but I do think that they have it a little bit easier. Yes.
Yeah, I really want to use a Bootsy. You don't know my struggle, and you don't know my hustle, but that's old Bootsy.
But that's okay. I think that the old Boosie is the most relevant Boosie.
So what? Yeah. Yeah, the one that did not have his Instagram and asking Mark Zuckerberg to put his Instagram back. And so I see a lot of our peers on here. And it's such a crazy thing. I was talking to one of my colleagues and I was like, oh, I'm talking about this, this, if you're able to hop on. And she was like, oh, that's really great to talk about the lingering post-grad blues, right? And I was like, Sarah, that's like the exact wording I put in this description for tonight, because it lingers. No matter if you are 1 year post-grad or we are years post-grad, it still lingers because you're still going to go. We're still trying to chase that golden ticket. It's there. We just have to define it for ourselves, enjoy the journey to get there, and keep working to get there. But that word lingering, for her to use it, and she's in our peer group, and for me to like, okay, how do I make sure people know that this is for new and seasoned? So talk about like signs of like lingering. Like what are some reasons or examples why we would still be lingering in this, and it's still stemming back to that time in our lives?
The number one reason why I would be lingering is career dissatisfaction. I believe when you have not found a thing that you love, okay, granted, I don't know the statistics, right? But how many people get to do what they love every day?
15%.
Thank you. I knew you would know it.
I know, but that was part of this. I think that's in one of the chapters where I talk about careers. It blew my mind when Gallup did this poll that 85% of the world, not the US, 85% of the world did not like their job.
Yeah.
And so now everybody doesn't even want to go back in the pandemic and quitting left and right. And they're like, well, what? I don't know why people don't like. Check yourself.
You want to know a very funny story? I've been so we talk about me being the owner of my business and being a counselor, but I do work a full-time job, right? Still, and that's my day-to-day job. And people always tell me to explain what I do, so on and so forth. And I always have struggles explaining it, and I always have struggles explaining who I work for. I just know that it's a really good job and a really good company. And, my new boss told me the other day, he was like, you realize that you're a healthcare executive. I was like,
am I?
What? And he's like, that is what you are. When people ask you, you're a healthcare executive. And for me, that shifted the way I looked at what I did. I was almost like, well, I'll be damned.
That was not part of your plan at all.
It wasn't part of my plan, but that shifted for me how I even accepted the career path that I ended up on for the past 6 years. Because I didn't know why I ended up here, and I'm accepting of it and I enjoy it. That's why I'm there. But it was like, oh, she's here. I like it. Okay. And so I think that job satisfaction, and it's like, okay, I became 10% more satisfied in my job now that I knew exactly how to label what it was that I did. I'm a healthcare executive. I like that.
You would have told me that. I would have put that under your title.
Well,
CEO and healthcare executive.
I found that out 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And so, but I say that to say, a lot of people, they go to work and they just work. They work for a check. Are we working for satisfaction? Do we
But
know?
that's what they told us to. They never taught us, which is I addressed that too in one of my chapters.
No. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Do we have to be taught that we should be working for happiness? Or is this something that is learned through our upbringing and through our lives, right? Because we see satisfaction. This goes back to our
Yeah.
families and our parents, right? I'll go to my mom. My mama was a janitor, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was so happy every day of her life. Coming from this, she walked around that school, click clacking them keys, and she was so freaking happy. She didn't come home and she didn't complain not one day about that job.
Yeah.
And as an adult, as a child, I didn't understand it. But as an adult, I realized my mother had absolute job satisfaction. She enjoyed the people she worked with. She enjoyed what she did because she was the head janitor. She told them other people what to do. So she enjoyed what she did. She enjoyed bossing people around, walking around and being sociable. When you know my mama, you know that was her dream job, right? And so she had job satisfaction. And I think for me, it was instilled in me. You go to work, you work hard, and you be happy at what you do. So it goes back. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier with like relationships and understanding. I understood that my mother's relationship with her job was a good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
What is your relationship with your career? Is your job just a job, or is it a career?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
something that you love, or is it something that you love to hate? If you don't like cooking, then why are you a chef? Right? If you don't love teaching, then why are you a teacher? So these are simple questions. Did you do it? Did you do it because it was an easy thing to do? You have to start to evaluate those things and figure it out.
So how do we and with that being the biggest factor for I think new grads and seasoned grads, I won't use old, seasoned grads.
Mm-hmm.
How, because I think for new grads, they are probably mad that they're not working in their field. That could be an issue. I can't find a job exactly what I want to do, or they hit this wall where you need 25 years of experience and a bachelor's degree to do this,
Right.
which is another frustration. What's, how do we work through this?
So you work through this by being I'm sorry, I looked at the comments. You know I'm a squirrel.
I need to find I can't see any comments.
I mean, you work through this by starting to really dig in, and I think you wrote about it. And of course, I don't know the chapters because it's your baby. You know which chapters. I didn't outline it,
Sometimes I do.
but you wrote about it really determining and really deciding that you want to make a pivot and make it a plan and just doing it. Sometimes we have to hustle a little bit, right? In the comments, Kristen wrote survival, stability, and a means to an end. And she is absolutely right.
Yeah.
But when you realize that that means to an end will lead to you being unhappy for the rest of your life, then you choose, if you choose to be happy, if you choose that you want your life to be better, then sometimes you have to make the sacrifice and actually figure out how you can make a change. Now, sometimes you can't. I'm not saying that it's going to be feasible for everybody because sometimes that survival isn't going to be, that survival has to be first, right? That survival is going to be first. But if, let's talk about this chef who don't like cooking, right? So if you are that chef who does not like cooking and that you went to culinary school, you got that culinary debt, you have all of these things, and that is just what you do. You feel like you're too tired to do anything, but that is what is paying those bills. That is what's feeding, that is what's feeding your family, so on and so forth. Then what else can you do? So, chef, is there a way for you to find another place in this culinary world that makes you happier, so that while you're doing that, you can look for that other happiness, that other thing, because, I mean, job dissatisfaction is one of the greatest causes of clinical depression. Earlier, we classified the different types of depression. Let's talk about clinical depression. I want to talk about, what clinical depression can lead to. We have medical professionals on here.
Yeah.
It can lead to, self harm. And we want to be real about that. We don't want it to get so bad. You also don't want to be an 80-year-old grump, just for no reason because you've been in the bed.
Bitter.
But if there's a way, then there's a way. Then find a way. I'm not saying leave everything on the table and just walk away and be miserable. But sometimes we do have to hustle. Sometimes, I'm the first to say, today I'm working 3 jobs, not because I have to, because I want to. I'm hustling to figure out what the next thing is.
Mm-hmm.
What that next thing look like. I am trying to build the next thing, bigger and better. Sometimes we have to hustle to see what that looks like. And I want to always make sure that as we talk to college grads, that they are not afraid of that hustle.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of the hustle, because you may not make more than $20 an hour when you graduate. And you may be upset about that. You may be upset about it. And you may have to go out. I remember being in my master's program, being postmasters. I remember working at Bed Bath & Beyond while I was a counselor at a substance abuse agency. And one of my clients came there and was like, "You my counselor?" I was like, "I am."
Yeah.
But right now, I am your fine China salesperson. No, I help you. And that's okay.
That is very okay. You don't know what other goals people have or what they need. So I think of it as an evolution. I think I might have mentioned that in part of my book. When it clicked for me, I was in this retreat and it was full of like really established, seasoned, successful Black women who could say, "Hey, huh?"
You got good comments too.
I can't see it. You're going to have to monitor it. I don't know why they're not showing up on my phone. And I feel like I'm old because I can't work this. Oh, okay, I see them. I have to do all comments. So when, this, and she, top of her game, and, we're all talking about things we wanted to do. And she's like, I've been working in this field. I've been to the top. I need to evolve. So I'm trying to find out my next step. And she was 60. So looking at even President Obama, LeBron James, of how you have to keep evolving, like you were president and he didn't like go and just, he wrote a book. He's doing a podcast. He's executive producing TV shows. Like they are living, they're like doing exactly what they want to do that brings them joy. But you're going to have several points of evolution in your life and career. As you reach one point, you realize, okay, they've been there, done that. I'm happy. What's next? And so if you get comfortable with saying, hey, okay, that was this phase, I'm moving into something else. Even me shifting towards, I was a college coach. Now I'm a professional, moving into like coaching professionals and leadership. That's something that I wanted to do before, but it wasn't the right time. I needed some things in between. But if you think about it as I'm going to have to evolve and turn and change and move in the things that I thought was important 5 years ago are not as important now. Your priorities shift, your viewpoint shift, the world changes. And so we don't have time to be dissatisfied in a job. But that's one of the things that you can talk to your therapist about, of like clarifying your priorities, figuring out what makes you happy, having the courage and the confidence to do that, making a plan to do that, even if it means making some sacrifices. In a future podcast, I'll have my career coach, and that's kind of where it clicked for me when he was like, "What do you want?" And I was like, it's probably impossible to get what I want. Looking back at it, that was, of course, 2017 when I had this conversation. And I was like, I want to be innovative. I don't want to be micromanaged. I want to lead. I want to be creative. I don't want to leave college higher ed. But I don't want to work for higher ed. I don't think I fit into the corporate environment, even though I want to go work for Google. And so once I put all of the things that I wanted and I had the courage to wait it out, I am absolutely having the best time in the position now because I said, no, we're not going back there. Nope, no, I'll wait. Nope, yes. And so I think that is where it's like, yeah, it's going to be rough days, but overall, I'm the happiest that I've been in a position, in all of my positions. And I love the work, but I had to take that time, that clarity, the reflection, had to have faith. I had to have that boldness to say, this is what I want, and I'm willing to search for it. I'm willing to wait for it. And, you can do that. You can combine all of your passions. I still wanted to be a social entrepreneur, still want to work with college students. I still like coaching. I wanted to be that. And so once I wrote it down and made it simple and clarified my priorities, then I made that happen on my own, because all of the hustles that I have been doing for years was the foundation for what I'm doing now. And so when I look back, I was my happiest when I said, okay, tired of being this phone, how do I make stuff happen for myself? So I just remembered, okay, I do want to build my business. I am a church girl, so that's where my time is going to go. I'm going to make time for that. And then anything else after that is linear. And once I started building the business, put my time in, my money, my effort, I said, okay, well, we'll make whatever my situation is, I'll make it work. I got that one call. I moved out of state, had that experience, came back, enjoyed my sabbatical from life, worked on things that made me happy, was the happiest ever with maybe a few dollars in my bank account at times, but God is good. But I think that's what kicked me out of that funk, is when I took control of my situation and I clarified those priorities. And I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Whether I have to scale back financially, I can take the big leap from the job that I don't want. How am I going to do that? That's when I got out of that funk, that post-grad depression, even though I was 8 years removed from undergrad, but a few years removed from my PhD. And talking to one of my mom's colleagues and friends, she's like, I just finished my master's. She is probably mid-50s. And she's like, I could relate to everything. And I still had that. I got this master's degree, but then I'm looking at job descriptions. And I thought I was going to have all these doors open for me, but they're not. And so no matter where you are, I think just that expectation that you set, and then when it doesn't happen, that sets in, but it can happen to any of us.
Absolutely. And I do want to talk about the comments a little bit, because I know we're about to run out of time. I know Michelle and Kristen, Michelle talked about a little bit that most people are taught to go to college, get a good job, make money, suck it up, and if you don't like it, because that's life. And then, happiness is saved for retirement. But then Kristen piggybacking said that if you think about it, it's really first world problem. So many people don't have the luxury of ever choosing happiness. And that is so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. Like we are taught that we put our happiness on the back burner because it is survival, and we are taught to just suck it up, but that's why it's so important that when we're in college, we really make those good decisions. And, if you're unhappy, figure out a way to shift that while still meeting your needs, and we're not gonna be happy all the time. I don't want, by any means, we're not gonna ever be happy all the time. However, we will be able to, if you want to, you can always figure out a way to make an adjustment to your situation.
Yeah.
There's always a way to adjust your situation. And that's, I think, if anything comes from this conversation, that with lingering post-grad blues, that adjustment, that pivot. We said that word so much. We can pivot to figure out how do we do something different, you know? And so we really want to figure out how can we pivot? How can we figure out the best thing? I mean, I was just talking to my niece the other day. She was like, she's a great photographer. She's about to go to college. She was like, I know I was going to do photography, but that's the thing that I do because I really love to do it. I don't want to do it for money. I don't want somebody to take my hobby away from me and make me do it for a check. And I was like,
I love it.
What? And I was like, but that's the thing you do the best. And she was like, but that's her choice. And she still has another year of high school, and that's her choice. And so,
But her following that path could absolutely lead to her financing her whole life because she's chosen that path and she's open to that. And we don't have a lot of that now. So
exactly. And I'm like, okay, well, hey, to each his own. So, I mean, I thought we were going to go to school to be a photographer, but if you said that is just the thing that makes you happy and that's not what you want to make out of a career because that's what you do because that makes you happy, I want you to keep that because that makes you happy.
Yeah.
That for yourself, and I'm game. So, I mean, people have to choose what it is, and if we don't take anything else from this call, take that we just have to pivot. Find your happiness. If it's not at work, find it in life, but find a way. Find somebody to talk to. Therapists are all over, everywhere. They're in every state. They're in every city. Psychology Today has a listing, therapy for Black girls. I love therapy for Black girls. But most of us has a therapist friend who can always give you a referral to somebody if they don't get to give you the list of referrals that they're supposed to give you. So there's always that, just do your research, find your therapist locally, and, just get with them and
and you don't have to go because you're depressed. You can go because you're confused and needing clarity and you need to process. So start before that sets in and it leads to something serious. So, well, thank you, friend, for having this conversation with me.
You're welcome. Now you can take me off the list of people who did not show up.
I will definitely do that. So it's up to you. You can tell people to follow your social media channels because you do give really good mental health tips.
Sure. So you can follow Brightside BR. That's on Instagram. And on Facebook, it is Brightside Counseling Services. And if you can go on either of our social media platforms and our contact information will be there. But definitely follow our Facebook page for mental health tips, Facebook and Instagram for mental health tips. We will be sharing some great news really soon, for sure.
Well, thank you. And be sure to pick up Live Wiser. If you haven't done so, thank you for those who have purchased, read it, and left really great reviews. You can read it. You can see that it's for all ages, no matter how far you are post-grad. I know a lot of my near peers and peers have really, because I think I wrote it from my perspective of where we are as 30-something-year-olds, and it really hits home. So go and purchase it. It's a lot of things we talked about today. I will be doing a whole lot of these. So I think Friday, I read this great book called Confessions of Frustrated Millennials. Right? It was like a year before I wrote my book, and it was on point. I was like, I can identify all of my friends in this book. She captured how we feel post-grad so well, with the frustration with relationships and finding love, finding our hustle, hating our job, staying at home, trying to fly the coop. And so that author will be with me on Friday as we talk about her fictional book and parallel it to my nonfiction book and how those things collide. Let's see. Next week, I'll have Jackie Twilley as we will talk about I have a chapter called Career Commandments. I think that's the title of the chapter. And we will talk about negotiation and salaries. And then probably sometime after that, I also have my career coach to talk about some career things. And trying to line up all of them. I think also this month I will have Paris Woods, who's is so wonderful how past me. She actually was the founder of the organization that I work for. And so now she's she's in the process of publishing a great book on Black Girls Guide to Financial Freedom. So we'll talk about that, and that will kind of parallel some of my things from my chapter on making sense of the dollars. And also, I think we will talk about purpose with the purpose pusher. I can't wait to have that conversation. She's a life coach out of New Orleans. So I didn't mean it for this way, but we have a lot of Black girl magic featured on this podcast. So this month will be great. I'll be also promoting that on social media. And so thank you to everybody who tuned in. We did go over. I know Trina has a little one that's he's either probably in his iPad or about to knock at the door.
Justice is live streaming us in the living room, and he's watching us on TV, and every few seconds he's laughing at us on the TV.
Hey, Roro, in that case, mommy's about to be done, so she can come play with you.
No, he thinks it's funny. We're on TV.
Yeah, thank you so much. And don't forget to pick up Live Wiser all on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. Thank you.
Bye.